Welcome to GameFellas, the Retro to Modern Gaming Podcast, episode 6. Tonight, I have with me Justin Day from the UK.
Good evening.
Good evening, Justin. I know it's late for you. Thank you for coming on. And
pleasure.
We also have Tony Brazel. How you doing, Tony?
How's it going?
Good. It's getting going. And then we have Nate returning, our producer, Nate Rowe. Hooray! How you doing, Nate?
I'm doing all right. Happy to be back.
Yeah, Nate's been gone for a couple months now, I think. But good to have you back, dude. See how it goes. So, all right, boys, why don't we start with what we've been playing? And I got quite a bit to talk about in that regard. So I'll go last. Justin, why don't you kick us off, man? What have you been playing lately?
Yeah, I mean, I probably have quite a bit to talk about here as well. I'm gonna go with the one that's probably furthest in the past, 'cause it's been a while. So I find myself playing the oddest of games, and this one is a game I picked up just for my collection, to be honest, on my Switch, and I didn't really pay it any credence at all. And I was looking for something to play, and I thought, well, look, I've bought it, so rather than just have it in the collection sitting on the shelf, let's actually go for it. So it's a game called Yoku's Island Express. I don't know if you've played this, if you're familiar with this. Let me describe it to you.
How do you spell that? Yoku?
Yoku, Y-O-K-U,
Okay.
Yoku's Island Express. The description, this is a kind of a mix of what I found on the internet and also my own description of this, is a Metroidvania-style platform game in an open world with an offbeat pinball theme. How do you like the sound of that?
It sounds like other games you've played, like whatever that Zelda clone rhythm game or whatever. What was that game called that you were playing?
Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Right, that's what it sounds like to me. Something in that game.
Yeah, no, I always bring something ridiculous to the table. So, the story's, as usual, utterly ridiculous. You play the part of a small beetle with a ball attached to you. Just work with it. You arrive at an island. You're tasked with trying to solve the riddle of an impending disaster that the island's deity has somehow got wrapped up in, and you are also a postman. There you go.
Okay, and a postman on top of that. Okay,
on top of all that craziness. And look, this is why I like games like this, because I'm a big fan of mind melt games. Just when I want to not worry too much about getting in depth into a story or having to be the best gamer since forever, and I can just solve a few puzzles, I can just move around the levels, and it's pretty cool. And it does have that Metroidvania style to it. You won't think that to watch a video of it or to look at it. But it's a huge map, and bits and pieces open up as you achieve different things, as you gain different abilities. And the movement is you attached to this little ball, and part of it is flinging around the island like in a pinball style. So literally using flippers and grabbing onto things and hurling yourself about, solving little puzzles. And
you're a beetle or an ant or something, or some sort of bug?
I believe you are a dung beetle.
I was about to say, it looks like a dung beetle, like he's pushing around a ball of shit or something.
I mean, that would be a pretty apt description.
Oh man, the art style is really cool. Like, I'm looking at the video, and wow, it's pretty interesting, man.
It is. It's like I said, it was one I picked up more just to put in the collection, sit on the shelf, and gave it a go. And I mean, I put a good 20, 30 hours into it. Just by the time I completed the main game, I was going back, I was doing the usual sort of, like I say, Metroidvania stuff. I was opening other stuff up. I was going through the collectibles, and actually it's really pretty compelling. Not a bad game at all. It was actually quite critically acclaimed. I did a search to see what other people thought, thinking I was probably just the odd bod that actually kind of liked this. But no, turns out I'm not the only one. So that gets a big thumbs up from me. But
Nintendo Switch, right?
That's on the Switch, yeah. But here's the big one. I've been holding off on this for some time. So whilst I'll play retro games through emulation and all sorts of other bits and pieces, I've been holding off on getting my own original Super Nintendo out of the box. This is absolutely true. It's been boxed for about 25 years.
Wow.
And I got it out for the first time. I've invested in an OSSC, which is a line doubler. It's the kind of alternative to the Frame Meister, which is an upscaler.
Oh, you have the open source one. Okay.
I do.
Yeah, I have a Frame Meister, so yeah.
Yeah. It's
And I paid for it.
yeah, quite. I can vouch for the OSSC for starters, but it really was a step back in time because all of the cartridges, these are my original games as well, I have never taken out of the box since, and they still have all of my original saves and Soren's saves as well, sort of locked, frozen in time from 25 years ago. So I've been kind of working my way a little bit through the library. So I know, I don't want to steal your thunder, I know something you've been playing a lot. So I won't mention that, but I had a pop on that. And I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't anywhere near as good as you, dude. I really wasn't. I was frighteningly bad. But I am in the middle now of. I went back to A Link to the Past. I went straight to Zelda, Link to the Past, and it's as great for me now as it was then.
So it holds up. It holds up pretty well in your eyes. I haven't played Link to the Past in many years, but people seem to think it holds up pretty good. Yeah,
of the Zelda series, it's between that and Breath of the Wild for me. Common theme that we often talk about. It holds up better than something like Ocarina of Time for me because of the 16-bit graphics. They feel easier to go back to and to adapt to rather than that early polygonal view. I just genuinely struggle with going back to, and I am. Yeah, I mean, I'm about halfway through the game and I haven't put it down and I won't put it down and I'm going to complete it again. And like I said, though, it was just quite odd seeing frozen game saves from 25 years ago. So yeah,
you're very fortunate because I never had that opportunity because I sold off all my Super Nintendo stuff in high school like an idiot. And cartridges are gone forever. You're lucky, man, that you have that opportunity to go back and actually go through your old saves and your original cartridges. That's great, man. What other games have you tried so far?
So yeah, a little bit of Star Fox or Star Wing, as it is in the UK.
That's right, Star Wing. Yeah.
Zombies, which was Zombies Ate My Neighbors in the US.
Konami game.
Yeah, a little bit. Another one as well. I mean, this was. I don't even know what made me buy this back in the day. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but Pop and TwinBee. You familiar with that? Pop and TwinBee Rainbow Bell Adventures.
No.
I'm seeing an odd.
Yeah, we didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, neither did me and Soren. We got it, but we didn't.
We didn't get it here in the States.
I mean,
it wasn't released here. Okay,
it's for want of a better term, it is Jap as hell. It's it's mental. It's almost a platform shoot 'em up. I think it's actually a follow up to Pop and TwinBee, which I think that was a shmup.
I don't know. I'm not really. I've heard of it, but I'm not super familiar with with those games. But it might. Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. TwinBee. That sounds like it could be a shoot 'em up of some.
Yeah. You remember Stinger? Stinger on NES?
Yes.
It's that series.
Oh, okay. That's right. I have Stinger. I think I got Stinger up at the con maybe last year or the year before, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's I think the original was a vertical scrolling shmup, I think, and what they did was they kind of took they almost turned the characters into platform characters, and this is now a sort of platform based game, but almost like you're playing the part of the ship. But mental, absolutely mental, very, very bright, very looks like it's acid induced. But it is a cool game. And again, another one just to great to pick up and see the save files that were frozen in time. So
it's a cute 'em up. Okay, it's sort of like in that genre, I guess. That's what it looks like to me.
Definitely, or certainly the original. Yeah. This is like a platform inspired version.
Okay, right, the one you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. So and I mean loads of other games as well. I mean, one thing I'm really lucky. I say lucky. I was a sad child. Is that I really, really took care of my video games, and I was really anal about looking after the instruction manuals, looking after the boxes. I mean, some of the instruction manuals I have are museum pieces. it's ridiculous. You'd pay through the nose to get them. So I'm genuinely chuffed that I was a sad child and looked after all these things. So they're
man.
now,
Super Nintendo particularly, the value is just ridiculous now. You know, a lot of the games are just so expensive. So yeah, definitely. If you've kept them in that good a shape, that's awesome, man. You've got a collection on your hands. I think probably worth some money, I would imagine, at this point.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. So yeah, just working my way through that as well. Bomberman, there's another one. So we had a Bomberman evening. We literally just played Bomberman all evening.
Nice.
So yeah, I haven't touched the Switch or anything since the SNES went back on.
That's great, man. Well, you could, if I moved, you could see my SNES hooked up right back there with my Genesis and my TurboGrafx and my NES, and all hooked up to the FrameMeister, man. And that's how is the what's it called, the upscaler that you've got again?
The OSSC.
The OSSC. Mark would probably know all about it, but
it's actually a line doubler, so it's slightly different, but it's I suppose where it's easier than the FrameMeister in that it really is kind of plug and play. There's no messing around. The FrameMeister has a lot more options and fiddling, and you know, there's no real argument. I think that the FrameMeister is the better piece of kit. But this has got a lot of support, and
more affordable too. More affordable option.
Definitely, and it really was just get myself a decent SCART cable, plug it in, falsify the scan lines straight away. Scan lines, yes please, bang on.
Yeah. See, I don't turn any of that on. I like to just see the razor sharp pixels. That's how I like it. I don't know. It's just, I know it is blasphemy, but that's what I like. I like it nice and crystal clear, no scan lines, no filters, nothing.
It's funny. Maybe that's a topic for another time.
It is a topic. Oh, that's great. Would be a great topic. CRT versus.
Because I can honestly say, hand on heart, I don't do it because I'm some like kind of nostalgia purist. I actually genuinely feel that the visual lends itself better to the scan line. But anyway, chat for another day. So,
yeah, definitely. All right, cool. Thanks, Justin. Tony, let's move on to you, man. What have you been playing lately other than Final Fantasy 14?
Well, and other than Final Fantasy 14, I've been playing Final Fantasy 1 on the NES.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
interesting.
I'm actually recording it. I've got an idea for a video that I'm working on that has to do with how the Final Fantasy series has its roots in tabletop or like Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm working on some stuff with that. But yeah, other than that, a lot of Final Fantasy 14, Mario Maker 2. I've been playing a lot of Super Mario Maker 2.
There was a new expansion release for Final Fantasy 14, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
So tell us about that a bit.
Okay, so Shadowbringers came out at the beginning of July. I got in on the early access on that and played that for the week long, or was maybe even half a week of early access. And just oh my god. So the expansion itself is probably one of the best Final Fantasy games in terms of story that I've ever played.
Really? In terms of story?
In terms of the story, yeah.
Wow, and this is an MMO.
This is an MMO. Like,
okay.
the story is so damn good. Like, I felt like I had to keep going. I had to keep playing through and doing, all the story content as, without stopping, because it was just so damn good. And when I got done with it, I was like, I want to go back and play it again, but it's an MMO, so I would have to start a whole new character over and level up from the very beginning. And that's like probably a couple 100 hours worth of play just to get to the expansion content.
The cinematics look incredible, of course.
The cinematics always look really good. But like the game up to this point was never never bad. Like I was playing it a lot prior to this, but this expansion has come out and it's probably been the best MMO experience I've ever had in my life. I've been playing a lot with friends. I've been doing a lot of raiding. I've been doing a lot of end game content, stuff that I didn't really do before. I'm actually maining as a tank, so like I'm the guy that throws himself, but
Absorbs it.
Yeah, throws himself in front of the damage and everything between the enemy and the party. And I never really did that before because I was always kind of afraid to do that because you have to know mechanics a little bit better. You have to know fight mechanics better. You have to kind of manage the battles that are going on rather than just sitting back and stabbing the enemy in the back whenever you're playing like as a DPS class. But it's been phenomenal. It's been a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it if you're an MMO person, but again, you'd have to play through all of the content just to get to that point unless you wanted to pay an extra $20-$40 or some whatever it is to like actually do like a level skip and a story jump and everything. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I don't really have much else to say. I mean, I could do a whole freaking review on it or something, but
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's an MMO, and nobody really comes to my old YouTube channel to watch modern content, much less MMO content. But yeah,
what was the previous Final Fantasy MMO before this? Was it 11?
It was 11. Yes.
So my brother-in-law, he he probably spent years of his life playing Final Fantasy 11, if I recall. Like he had a point in his life. I feel like all gamers, well, maybe not all, but a lot of them. I had this with EVE Online. I played EVE Online years ago, and I probably spent 2 years of my life in college playing it and just wasting a lot of time. And my brother-in-law played Final Fantasy 11 for years. Just lived in his old room at his mom's house in his 20s, late 20s, playing Final Fantasy 11. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people really like these Final Fantasy MMOs. I've never tried one, but
yeah, the 11 has not aged well, in my opinion. I don't
11 was grind your dick into the dirt hard.
Yep. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was like if you die, you lose experience points, and you can like de-level and everything in 11. It was just, it wasn't a lot of fun. I played quite a bit of it, but then I found WoW, and then I was like, well, why am I even trying to play Final Fantasy 11? WoW is so much far and away so much better. But then I ran into Final Fantasy 14, and WoW has its merits, obviously, but yeah, Final Fantasy 14 for me, it just hits all the right marks. There's all kinds of throwbacks to older Final Fantasy games in it. So like you'll do a whole series of raids in the last expansion content that was all centered around enemies and encounters and story stuff from Final Fantasy 6. So you like get sucked into like this computer program that's recreating things that happen in other worlds. So it's not necessarily it is Final Fantasy 6, but it's like another world that may have been a lot like what happens in Final Fantasy 6. So you get to fight the Phantom Train or the Doom Train from Final Fantasy 6. You're going through the forest. You're on the train.
Cool.
You're fighting the train. There's a whole fight that revolves around what is that? I can't remember the name of the boss, but it was the painting boss where you go in and the painting has taken over, or the phantom has taken over the painting of the woman. Yeah, there's a whole fight surrounding that. There's also a fight in the regular Final Fantasy 14 world where you fight Calcabrina, the giant doll, the little dolls that form into the giant doll. There's a whole fight centered around that and everything. And so, yeah, there's like all kinds of like really, really great references, and they weave it in very, very well. So
that's awesome, man. I had no idea that there was references to previous games in there. Especially Final Fantasy 6.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a reference to just about every old Final Fantasy game. There's a whole series of raids based on Final Fantasy Tactics. So I mean,
wow.
Yeah, it's great. It's really cool.
Well, that's cool, man. Got some mega fan service in there, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, cool, man. Well, anything else, or just mostly Final Fantasy 14?
Just mostly Final Fantasy 14. Again, Final Fantasy 1. Have been playing some Super Mario Maker 2.
Yep.
Not really a whole lot to say about there. I mean, it's Super Mario Maker. It's got a lot of new features and everything, and it's fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it, but I mean, that's more of a I'm sitting in my bed and I have my Switch right there, so I'll play some Mario Maker or something. But
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Tony.
Mhm.
I guess we'll move on to me then. And like I said, I've had a lot going on games-wise lately. I'll start first talking a little bit more about Blazing Chrome, which is that run and gun that was released recently on the Switch and PC. Me and Mark actually played together. You can't play the game multiplayer online natively, but there's a program called Parsec that I mentioned, I think, a couple episodes ago that allows you to play multiplayer games online together. Basically, you can turn your computer into a server if you got a powerful enough PC, or you can rent one of their servers. So we tried doing it on my computer, and it ran okay, but Mark was having lag issues, probably because we're so far. Mark lives in Iowa, and I live in Florida, so who knows how far apart. It's pretty far apart. So we ended up renting a more centralized server from Parsec, which I think is like, it costs like 60, 70 cents an hour or something, which isn't too bad. And we played through the entire game, made it to the final boss, and it got a little bit late, and I'm like, dude, I gotta go to bed. But we had fun, man. It wasn't perfect. The lag was pretty good, but the quality of the image wasn't the greatest. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Blazing Chrome was a really fast-paced game, so it was hard for the streaming to keep up with it. It got really blurry in places and all, but it was playable. We played through the game and had a good time. So Parsec, I mentioned it before, is pretty cool. I'd like to try Cuphead and a couple other games that were advertised with it. But so yeah, Blazing Chrome was cool. We had a good time playing that multiplayer, me and Mark. What else have I played? Last weekend, I was at my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's place with my nieces, and we played quite a bit of games. We played Mario Kart, which is always fun. I was playing Mario Kart 8 with the nieces, the Switch version. It's Mario Kart. It's crazy. It's fun. I was helping my 3-year-old niece Maya with the controller. Basically, she would press the button to go, and I would steer, or vice versa. That was fun. My brother and I played a bit of Cuphead and made it pretty far. Still haven't beaten it, but we, finally got to play with my brother. Cuphead's great. I've talked enough about it. I won't talk any more about it. And we also played some Joust, and I've mentioned Joust before, which is an old arcade game. And if you've ever read the book, yeah, I'm sure, yeah, Mark, Justin, not Mark. Justin's familiar with it, obviously. He's the old arcade guy on here mostly, but Joust is probably my favorite arcade game. But I grew up playing the NES version mostly. That's the one I had. And we actually played the Genesis version. There was a version released on the Genesis, which was in the Williams Arcade Classics collection. And we gave it a shot, and it's an arcade port. So it's a pretty much arcade perfect port of Joust. And it's quite different than the arcade version. It's actually a bit harder, although there's more options that you can use. There's a big options menu, which allows you to give yourself more lives, and you can up the difficulty, I think up to there's 9 different difficulty levels. So Joust is one of those timeless games that is just always fun to just pick up and play. And it never gets old. It's like I feel like every time me and my brother get together, it's either Toe Jam and Earl or it's Joust, one of those 2 games, they're just kind of timeless in that way. And if you read the book Ready Player One, Joust plays a pivotal role in the book, not the movie. The movie, they changed things, but in the book, Joust had a very important part of that book, which I was kind of disappointed that they took that part out, but I kind of understand why they did. But anyway, yep, played those. That was a fun little gaming day with my nieces and my brother. I've also been continuing Star Fox, my practice, although I've upped the ante, and now I am going to try to do a no damage run of Star Fox instead of just no deaths. So I got pretty close last night, and Tony...
You're insane, dude.
Tony... Yeah. I beat it last night. I only got hit 7 times, which I thought was pretty good. Still not quite there. But Andross, the final boss, is probably the hardest part to pass without getting hit, because I'm sure the 3 of you, the 2 of you here have played Star Fox, so Andross, the face, when he's spitting all that crap at you, it's so hard to avoid, and half the time you can't even tell if you're going to get hit or not. So, you have to try and come up with a strategy to avoid it the best you can. But yeah, I know I'm kind of crazy, but there's one guy on YouTube I've seen that's done it already, but he did it a little differently than I'm going to do it. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, Star Fox. What else? I tried out a game called Quick Decisions by a friend of mine named Levi. He also goes by Retro Inactive Gamer on Twitter. He's someone that used to write for our website and years ago. But him and some other guys created their own game. It's a LucasArts style point-and-click adventure game, and it basically goes for that whole vibe, old pixel art style. Except in this game, it kind of makes fun of the tropes of those point-and-click style games of old, and the presentation is very meta. It's kind of interesting. I didn't make it very far. I suck at those games. I can never figure anything out. So. But I wanted to give him a little plug. It's very Maniac Mansion, sort of that style of game, Data Tentacle Maniac Mansion. So yeah, it's a cool little game. I'm not sure when it's coming out officially, but I think pretty soon. So give him a little plug. And what else? Divinity Original Sin 2. Me and my buddy Donald are still plowing through that, and I'm actually playing a tank also, Tony, with one of my main characters. So I've never really done that before, so I wanted to give it a shot. And yeah, it's fun, man. It's fun just going up and sopping up all the damage, and trying to kind of defend everybody else. So yeah, I won't talk too much about that. I've talked about Divinity before. And I guess lastly is I started No Man's Sky again last night. Logged on for the first time in about a year, and just immediately fell in love again. And I'll probably be playing that a lot in the next couple weeks leading up to there's a big update coming out in about a week. So yeah, No Man's Sky, it's great. And I think that's about it. So why don't we move on to our first topic, shall we? Which is one that I know Justin's been waiting for quite a while now, which is Google Stadia and our game streaming future. So I want to read a little something before we get started, just to kind of lay the groundwork here, which is game streaming. It's actually been around for a while. Some people may not realize it, but back in 2010, there was a service called OnLive that launched and allowed gamers to play games via streaming to a multitude of platforms, which included desktop PCs, smartphones, and OnLive actually released their own little console I think you could stream to also, which you could hook up to the TV or whatever. However, many factors led to OnLive's eventual demise. For starters, in order to get their product, their purported high-quality service to work properly, you had to live within 1,000 miles of one of their, I guess they had 5 data centers that were kind of scattered all over the U.S. So the farther you were from the data center, the less well it worked. And it was also reported that the overall service was inconsistent at best, with gamers claiming that the quality of the streaming varied widely depending on where you lived, like I said, and of course the internet speed. In 2015, OnLive ceased operations, selling all its assets to Sony Entertainment. Many of these assets ended up getting rolled into what became Sony's own game streaming service, the PlayStation Now, which has been around since I think 2015, that same year. So PlayStation Now is still around. I don't know anyone who uses it, but I hear it's serviceable, at best. But it's not exactly setting the world on fire, So, which begs the question: will Google Stadia be any better? Google, I think, has more resources than Sony does. If anyone can get it right, it would be them, right? So, what do you guys think? What do you think of Google Stadia, PlayStation Now, game streaming in general? Justin, why don't you take it away?
Yeah. Where do we start? I think, okay, so I think for me, and I think it's probably important and boring all at the same time to understand what my real life is all about. So I was gonna say,
get us into your line of work, and that'll help people understand.
Yeah. It's I'd love to say it's related to video gaming. It's not specifically. No. So I've spent my entire career in networks, telecommunications. So I'm, from the ground up, from wires and plugging things in, to configuring things and doing code, to doing architecture and understanding business requirements and yada, yada, yada. And that's been in country, that's been global. So, something for me, as soon as I see Google Stadia, the first thing that springs to mind for me is a fascination about leveraging the internet as a carrier backbone. I need to be careful here not to go into too worky and be too boring, but the internet isn't effectively all it's cracked up to be. You know, a lot of people don't truly understand what it is underneath the bonnet, you know, and why would they? You know, you just see your router, your modem, whatever, plug into the wall, and you just know that stuff comes down it, right? You know, and if you actually saw what is underneath, what those wires are, what all that connectivity is, how it all works, what's required, it's not quite as polished as everyone might hope or think. And we're just pouring all of this stuff on it. And that's streaming video, streaming music, streaming games, streaming this, streaming that. We moved from 4G to 5G, the Internet of Things, da. And you don't just have one company that controls the internet. You know, there are huge portions of this that are not incentivized to keep up, to be as fast, to deliver these things. They don't care whether or not you get this really fast streaming game and this service is working. And that might sound a little bit like, oh, you know, that's very down on Stadia and down on the internet, and nothing ever seems to be bad for me. I go and log on and things are working. And that's fine. But something like Stadia and something like online gaming, you know, people talk about lag, people talk about latency. And when you understand what they are and how they work, I mean, you were actually talking about it earlier. You were talking about parsec. You were talking about taking a server that's central to where you and Mark were geographically. And you know, in the world of video, what we're doing now, video and audio, we talk about real time. And this is, you know, real time communications.
Literally what we're doing right now.
Absolutely, literally what we're doing right now. And there is an acceptance and an understanding of quality and an understanding of lag. Things like video games are that one step further. It's interactive real time. You know, we're all gamers, and whether we're playing with our mates or whether we're doing something competitive, you know, when you're moving the control, you want it to happen right now. And to be able to honor that, particularly to do that when you're playing online, and to do that if you're playing with your friends or competitively or people you don't know, that is a huge burden and a huge ask of what the internet actually is. So it's all well and good having this centralized service, but it's about how that will actually distribute. So right now, I don't actually think this service is ready. I certainly don't think it's ready for 4K. I think that's just going to put an even bigger burden on it. And that's before we even get into the commercial aspect of it. I think, you know, again, an understanding of things like content delivery networks, an understanding of edge computing. Google's promise is effectively that they're going to build what I would describe as small data centers, if you like, at every exchange. So that's the nearest point at which all of your fiber and your copper comes out of your house and goes to the local kind of aggregation point. That is a humongous undertaking. And however much money you've got, whether you're Google or, you know, a very small company, time is not something you can buy. That's going to take a lot of time to move out and to achieve those things. So I saw one of the things that Nate was flashing up. There's a beautiful line at the top of one of these articles. It says Google Stadia is an early beta of the future of gaming. And I think that for me is where Google Stadia is at. I don't think that this won't be a thing. I don't think that this won't be the thing. I just think it's too early. I don't think the internet is as mature as people think. And I think what's going to happen is people are going to come flooding onto this. They're going to get maybe not even a bad experience, but not the experience that they want. And it's going to be quite damaging. And I think for Google, as big as they are, they have no presence in the world of video gaming. That may be hard to come back from.
Well, you mentioned people coming on and being damaging. Tony, you said that you got to try Google Stadia, correct, in beta?
Yeah, it was. They were just calling it like game streaming or project stream or something along those lines. And this was back. They sent me the link to do this, and they said that I was approved to do it or whatever. And I got on the beta team back in like November of 2018, and they wanted me to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So, and I had tried it a couple times because every time I tried it, it did not work. I mean, I got the game on the screen. It looked great, but as soon as, just like Justin was saying, whenever you move your controller, you expect your controller, your character on screen to move right away, and he didn't. It'd be like there was always like some kind of delay there, and it was almost quite literally unplayable. I don't have the best network set up at my house, and this is really funny, seeing as that I am also in IT. I just don't care as much to worry about that at home. I just don't.
I don't have a fish tank in my house either currently.
Yeah, so but like I could play Final Fantasy 14 all day long without any kind of lag. So that's kind of like the expectation that if I can play an MMO, I guess I should be able to play, this Google Stadia, with the network that I have in my house. Yeah, it was unplayable. Like, you would try to put in the combo of the button combo to get your character to fight or do this certain thing, and it just would take every other input, it seemed like. It just did not work. And there was like, oh, you have until January 15th to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey for free, and I don't have that game. So I'm thinking, hey, this is really cool. Maybe it works really well, and I'll sit here and play it. But no, I mean, I tried it a couple times. I could never get out of the intro area because it was just so bad. And
what's your internet speed at your house?
Oh, I don't know. It's decent.
Decent?
I pay for one of the better packages.
All right, so 50 megabits or something, or 80,
sure.
Whatever. So. Yeah. I think the specs Google, what I don't have this. I have notes on a lot of the info, but I didn't get what they said it was going to take to run 4K. I think it sounded ridiculously low to me.
35.
35.
Well, I think if you think to run a 4K stream for, let's say, a Netflix movie is 25 meg, for an HD stream is about 3 meg. You need to put some extra payload on top of that, so you're going to be looking about 35 meg. But I think just quickly picking up on that point of Final Fantasy 14, because it's a good point, and it's what people are going to say. They're going to say, well, hang on, I'm used to playing something online and it works.
Yeah.
So which doubles down as a problem for Google, because the expectation is that you're going to get exactly the same experience. So the bar is set high. But forgive me, I should know this. You're playing, one assumes, Final Fantasy 14 as a piece of software on your PC, but you're online.
Yeah.
So what you've got there is you've got a lot of the heavy lifting is actually being done locally.
Yes.
Yeah.
That you will not have in Google Stadia. Google Stadia is acting like Citrix, which I appreciate. Some people will understand what that means, and some people don't. So you're effectively.
What is Citrix?
It's like a. Justin, help me out. It's you can access like virtual machines or something online that are hosted at a remote location. So, so you can like work out of a piece of software that you don't actually have locally.
It sounds like Parsec, same thing, same concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so Citrix typically is built in farms. It's like a virtual desktop.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just, you would just have a screen for all intents and purposes in a very, 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 very lightweight box, because all you need is to be a portal to where the PC itself is hundreds of miles away. So Google Stadia is doing all that somewhere else. So you've got no local heavy lifting whatsoever, nothing. So everything has to come down. Now, in theory, that's fine. Again, all the heavy lifting is done somewhere else. It's done on a server. Now, to start with, that server is going to be centralized. It's going to be 1,000 miles away. And what they're saying is, but we can use content delivery networks, so things will be a bit closer, and then we're going to go and build closer. And fine. That is going to take time. That's a big ask. And also, if you're looking to just use like what Citrix is, so you're effectively just seeing a visual. It's almost like looking through a camcorder at another monitor that is somewhere else, 1,000 miles away. That is still going to have a lag and delay. And we have a very boring line that we use in networks, which is that you can't beat the speed of light. And those things they're going to take time. I'm really big on it because I think it is the future of gaming. I just think it's not the future of gaming in 2019.
And apparently it wasn't the future of gaming in 2009 when On Live was first announced.
That was horrible.
And they went live in 2010, I think, which was 9 years ago. And apparently, from what I read, it was not good. It wasn't. It wasn't good back then. And 10 years from now, even like I said, even me playing using something like Parsec, with me and Mark both have. I think Mark said he has like a gigabit of speed or something, and I have like 100, 150 sometimes, and we still weren't able to get perfect gameplay. So granted, Google Stadia is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of what this little Parsec company is doing, I would imagine. But
it is, and I mean, I could bore people with networking here. When a lot of people say, "Oh, what speed have you got?" And people say, "Oh, I've got 100 meg." That's your download speed,
right?
You have an asynchronous line, so your upload speed is often about an eighth of it. So
right.
And the upload is what you're pushing in the other direction,
right.
And that's going to be for Stadia way less important. But that's why, if anybody wants a really interesting lesson in networking, that when you host a game, a multiplayer game, because a lot of multiplayer games that are online, the recent ToeJam and Earl game being an example, one of you becomes the host and everyone else then uses you as the server.
Yep.
That everybody is bottlenecked by your upload speed. That's why if you try and play online with me in the UK, I have an upload speed of 400K. K. Not an M. K. That is why.
Wow.
So
and I thought 12 megs was bad on upload. That's what I got, I think. So yeah.
12 meg. I haven't even got 12 megs download. So 400K upload is why I'll be sitting playing with Billy, playing a game of Rocket League, and everybody gets lag and latency issues because of me, because I'm the one that's causing the problem.
Wow.
But anyway, forget networking. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I'm interested on people's take on the commercial side of this.
Well, yeah, that's what I want to talk about next, which is the specs of this. So Stadia is purportedly going to be free, right? The service itself, up to 1080p at 60 frames a second, they claim. If you want, but you won't have any access to any games that way. You have to buy the games all outright for $60. Which just sounds crazy. So, and also here's the thing: if you want the 4K, you got to pay $10 a month on top of that. If you want a controller, I don't know if you have to have the controller or not, but it's $70 for a controller. Apparently, the service is launching this year in November of this year. However, you have to buy this Founders Edition in order to play it, and even then, it'll only work on a Chromecast and through your web browser. Apparently, I guess this year. Like it sounds like a soft launch to me is what they're doing. And I guess there's 31 games so far, which is not a lot. And I looked at the list and it's Mortal Kombat 11, Doom Eternal, Metro Exodus, stuff like that, which is fine. But those are that's the commercial end of it so far. It doesn't sound great, man. I mean, you really want to have to pay full price for games that are, a lot of them aren't even new games to begin with, and on a streaming service that
it's already kind of a big ask to buy a game at full price on Steam, where it's you're worried about the DRM and all that,
right?
And but at least once you get it on your computer, it's there, it's on your computer,
right?
Where you're buying games in Stadia, and it's like, if that service goes away, if this thing bombs and they take it offline, then your game that you bought is gone. Like you don't get it. And I mean, unless I'm completely mistaken and I missed it, that they send you like a key or something at least to download it for local use. But,
I don't think that they. I think they've been asked that question, but they haven't addressed that yet.
Oh,
as far as
nice.
I understand. And the other thing is Google is known to shut down stuff all the time, so it is kind of scary in that regard. But here's the thing: you got PlayStation Now also, which I believe is $19.99 a month or $100 per year, right? There's over 800 games on there, and apparently it's passable from what I understand. It's still, I hear that faster games still have issues. I was doing a little research on it, and this guy was saying he tried Sonic Generations, which is it's a Sonic game. It's fast, and he said it was really hard to play because of the latency, and the screen would get all the artifacts in it and everything. That's the same kind of issue I had with Parsec at the really fast parts of Blazing Chrome. If I was using Parsec to play like a real-time strategy game or even a slower paced platformer, it probably would work really good. But these faster paced games, it's going to be really difficult without ridiculous internet speeds, to get them to play properly, I think, but at least in PlayStation Now's case, it's a limited access. You're not paying for each individual game. You pay the subscription, that's it. You can play. I think that's a more realistic business model,
I think, you've got to take from the other two big areas in these sort of similar industries, which is music and film. And the two biggest, two of the biggest on the planet at the moment are Spotify and Netflix. And look what they do. You've got Spotify. You pay your money. You get access to everything that's on there. You don't pay for a bonus album or this, that, and the other. You've got Netflix. You pay for that. You get everything that's on there. I think that's become an expectation. Before that, you kind of, when we first moved into the sort of music MP3s and things like that, you might have things like your Apple Play Store and whatever, and you bought tracks at 79 pence at each or whatever they were. And I think before Netflix, whatever they were, was a Love Film or something like that. That was a natural progression. For me, forget all the technical stuff. Commercially, for this to work, this has to be a streaming service. Google have to go and sort their shit out with these companies and with these games and go, this is a streaming rights. This is the way it works. Do it pay per second, whatever you want to do. And by pay per second, I mean the way they pay the companies, not what you as the consumer pay. Doesn't matter. It will fall flat on its arse based on that. And what's worse is, I don't know if you saw the actual stories coming out, Google had to address the fact that people were calling it Stadia. They were calling Stadia the Netflix of video games. And they actually had to go and publish an article to say, just to be clear, no, we're not. You will have to buy the games as well.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that is...
It's bonkers.
It's poor. And I think you make a good point about Google. It's the great thing about companies like that they will go and try something and they will go and do these things, which I think is positive, but they will cut them and drop them like a hot stone as well. And that's worrying.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like I said, if you're buying this game, if you buy Assassin's Creed Odyssey and then some kind of deal falls through with Ubisoft, you don't have the game to play anymore.
No, it's not on your PC.
At least with like Steam, if you bought the game through Steam or even like some of the Xbox Live stuff or whatever, if they don't put that game on, or if they don't allow you to like buy that game anymore, you can still play it because you still have the rights to play it, but it's local, it's locally on your computer. They're not going to keep like Assassin's Creed Odyssey after an Ubisoft theoretical deal falls through. They're not going to keep that on their thing to play for like 5 people,
Yeah, I mean, look at the virtual console on the Wii. For they shut down the virtual console, and if you don't have those games on your Wii, you lose access to those games. Or even the Wii U, right? The Wii U had its own version of the virtual console too, I think. So, and that wasn't game streaming, but just an example of a way you can lose your games in this digital future that we now find ourselves in. But what about the Xbox One Game Pass? That's not streaming, but it's $10 a month, and I think also unlimited access to the games they got. Why would you want to stream a game when you could just download it? I mean,
especially if you have a console for it, that makes sense.
Yeah, it take half an hour at most to download a really big game, with the type of internet speeds we have.
Okay, yeah, maybe. No, I mean,
I mean, I downloaded an update for. I guess it didn't matter. For me, when I played No Man's Sky the other night, there was a 7 gig update I had to download. It took about 15 minutes. Okay. Justin.
Oh, look at you showing off with your 15 minutes.
Oh no, man! I mean, even here, like I've had to download a game and it'll take 4 hours to download.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, just depending on the game. Like I think
And the service.
it's like no, over Steam trying to download Witcher 3.
Oh, okay.
Again, it took like 4 hours or something
Really,
crazy
man?
like that. Yeah.
Steam is lightning for me, man. I get ridiculous speeds on Steam. It seems like, but yeah, okay. So
I think what happened right there, I'm sorry to interject, but I just wanted to say, I think what you just did, Zach, is the reason people in like city, California, big city, Los Angeles, where internet is just great. Sometimes I think this type of stuff will work, and then you got people in the sticks, or even people in the
like
UK.
you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's people out there who just do not have good internet.
Right,
and
man.
Sometimes it's hard to, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to interject.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I made a bad assumption there. And it's not like I live in the city, dude. I live, I guess it's a suburb type area, or a smaller town type area, but definitely not in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, it makes sense. You're right. I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but then again, those same people, are they going to have any more success streaming games then? If their internet's still not great, like Justin, it's not going to work for you, obviously. Not with the type of internet you've got. Nope. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, at any rate,
yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. Like Derek's not on because, well, I mean, I guess he's in a better shape now. But before he moved to where he's at now, he was out in the middle of freaking nowhere. There'd be no way he'd be able to do any kind of Stadia streaming.
That's true. Yeah, although he does do Game Pass. I think Xbox.
Yeah, he does do. Yeah, he's using Game Pass, but he's moved to a more urban area.
Right. So it makes more sense for him now.
Yeah, he's in a college town. The college town's going to have good internet. So
yeah.
So guys, let me ask you the question then. With the with the real saving here looking like it's only a piece of hardware, and let's assume a piece of hardware is, I don't know, $400. I don't know whatever console retails for £400.
Yeah, 400.
For the sake of that, if that is the one thing that Google appears to be getting rid of in exchange for everything we've just discussed, which is fact, not opinion, are you taking on Google Stadia or are you not?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
I don't play new games enough to even give a shit about it.
And if you're gonna play an indie game, why would you bother streaming it?
Yeah,
They're really small in size anyway.
Yeah.
So
No.
There's one advantage I can see, and that's if you don't have a huge expensive rig or a PlayStation Pro that can do 4K. If you want to do 4K games and it really does, and you have a really good internet and it really does work the way they say it's going to work, then I could see wanting to play like whatever the latest AAA release is, in 4K, right? I could see advantage there, but then you got to wonder, is it really going to look as good as if you're just running it on your PC with maxed out settings,
I feel like this is more of a target for those people in the big cities that don't have a whole lot of room in their apartments or
maybe,
or their dorms, and they've got like a laptop, but they've got access to really, really high speed internet, and they don't have room to put a desk and a PC or something in their house.
That's a great point.
I feel like that's probably more of the target. Us people who live in places where we've got space and everything, it's probably just like, well, why the hell would I even try to do this? I mean, I've got a gaming rig right here that a couple $100 could fix it up to play everything that's out now. But if I were living in a dorm, like at NYU or something, and I had like just a regular laptop or whatever, I mean, I could see where it would be appealing there. But for me, I mean, if I really want a new game, big rig experience, I'm just gonna upgrade my PC and play it that way. But
yeah, Yeah, that's a great point, man. I didn't even think about that, of how people, inner city people, with limited space, it might be more appealing to them, or anyone with limited space, I guess, and a good internet connection. They're like, oh yeah, I can use a Chromecast, to play games, or if Google decides to sell some little, Stadia box or something, streaming box, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Well, any final thoughts, gentlemen, before we move on?
The logo is crap. I swear to God, it looks like a something that you would put on like an art program, or like a really boring office suite.
No, it's just a scribble. Yeah,
it's not
a scribble.
It's not exciting. It doesn't
represent it.
Doesn't look like something that you would look at and say, oh, this is definitely a gaming platform. It looks like it's maybe some third-party agent that deals with sports or something. It's just not. It doesn't have anything to do with video games. I think it's
true. You see Stadia and you think, I immediately think sports. Maybe that's what they're going for, like esports or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
you're right. It's kind of a meh logo.
Yeah, but whatever.
Okay.
I mean, now that we've got a picture of it up there next to the PS and the Xbox logo, okay, maybe. But it also kind of looks like a freaking restaurant logo for.
It looks like
fried chicken or something.
Looks like my 5-year-old niece just went like this with a marker. Is what it looks like to me. All right, cool. All right, well, on that note, we will take a break, and when we come back, we will get to our next topic. We are back, and now we're going to have some fun and stop talking technical crap. Our next topic is, I tried to figure out how to word this properly, and I couldn't find a polite way to word it. So I'm just going to say, games everyone thinks are great, but you think are garbage. That's the topic. So, Tony, why don't you start? Start us off, man.
Is this where I'm supposed to say Secret of Mana and somebody is supposed to get all pissed off at me? Is that what this one was?
I'll get pissed off at you.
I put Tony's previous Secret of Mana rant on the highlight reel specifically for Justin.
Because I don't think it's garbage. I mean, it's not a garbage game. It's just it's dated. It doesn't play well. It's just very clunky. It is a very clunky game, and it's not translated very well. It's like on levels of Illusion of Gaia, levels of bad in terms of translation. It's just, then you'll like walk around and the character will be like, oh, I'm gonna leave, and then they literally just disappear off the screen. It's like, this is a 16-bit game. Where's the walking away animation? I think I think that the core concept is great, but I just don't.
No. You're not supposed to talk about how great it is. You're supposed to talk about why it's garbage.
Well, you interrupted me there. So I think the core concept is great. I just don't think it was executed very well.
Okay.
And I don't understand why people hold it up to be this this like legendary classic game on the system, when I think it's honestly it's just okay. It's just good. It's not a masterpiece. That's the word I hate when people use it for it, is masterpiece. It's not a masterpiece by any means. So, yep. That's my Secret of Mana.
I mean, I think we talked about it on the previous one, but I played Secret of Mana last year. I enjoyed it a lot. Masterpiece, I don't know. I think if I would have played it more as a kid, like I just played a little bit as a kid, but if I would have played it more, I might think it was a masterpiece now. But
yeah.
I did enjoy it, but I see what you mean about some of the jank. I mean, Justin, now's your chance. Defend Secret of Mana. Explain why it's a masterpiece. Even by today's standards, you have to really sell us on this, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, I might even struggle there. I think, again, it's probably slightly off what the topic was meant to be, because it's. I don't think anyone's going to call it garbage.
Okay.
Masterpiece is definitely a term that's thrown around a little too easily.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And too much. And I think a lot of games, particularly anything from 16-bit backwards, holds so much nostalgia for people that the nostalgia itself becomes the reason for using the word masterpiece.
True.
I need to be careful here because over the course of time, by the time we get to episode 72, what I want to do is not just keep using the term masterpiece. I need to reserve it for the right games.
That's true. Yeah.
This for me was a massive game, and I think for someone who grew up loving role-playing games, particularly loving Japanese-inspired role-playing games, and this was the next step past one of two things. You kind of, I had my Final Fantasies, very turn-based games that I loved. I had Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, which is a bit, for want of a better term, a hack and slash, but it's that style. This to me, I really, and I know you hate the ring system.
Yeah.
I love the ring system. I thought it was brilliant, and I also loved that the idea of the this was the first time I saw that system where, you know, after you swing your sword, you're penalised for just swing. You have to wait till the bar comes back before you can swing the sword again.
I think that's a good idea, honestly.
Yeah,
I do. There's a lot of stuff about it that I think is great. But go ahead.
I mean, we've totally ruined this topic. We've been set off on Secret of
All
Mario.
right, let's modify it. Let's modify the topic and say
No, let's not. I've got some.
no. I mean, like, we don't have to call the games garbage. You can play this games that we don't enjoy as much as some other people. We don't understand why they're regarded as masterpiece or classic. You know, that's what I mean. We could make the topic a little less, mean. I don't know. Because Tony doesn't think Secret of Mana is garbage. He just thinks it's not up to the level that most people hold it at.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've got at least one game for each of you that is going to mean I'm never invited back.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you throw one out there then?
Who shall I upset first? You?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, well, I'll go with Metal Slug.
Metal Slug.
Shit. Absolute crap. Heralded again as masterpiece. Wonderful game. Look at this. Rubbish. You couldn't pay me to play that piece of crap.
Well, this may surprise you, but I'm not a big Metal Slug fan. I think it's too slow paced. It's very slow paced compared to a Contra game. I'm more of a Contra type guy, you know.
Wow, this is quickly becoming the most boring ever. Okay, right. Next, Tony. Tony, I'm going to apologise in advance. I think MegaMan stinks.
Oh, here we go. All right, here we go.
I hate it. You couldn't pay me to play it. I think it's a below average platform game when there are a million better out.
Which MegaMan?
What? Yeah.
Any.
Okay.
Crap.
What is better platforming than Mega Man?
What about any game in the Super Mario series ever?
Okay.
Or Sonic.
Oh no. There's mine. Sonic the Hedgehog is garbage. Straight garbage. Sonic the Hedgehog is not a good game.
All right, now you guys are starting to hurt my feelings a bit because I'm also a big Mega Man and Sonic fan. So
no. See, Mega Man has like very structured level design. There is like some of the older Mega Man games have some pretty cheap deaths and stuff. You know, you jump off and there's spikes and you have to know where the spikes are and everything. But no, man, it plays so perfect. It's solid. It feels solid. Damn solid games. Sonic the Hedgehog feels like a floaty, like piece of plastic in the wind whenever you try to jump. It's like, I'm going to jump on this platform, but it's like, whoa, you know, you're all over the place.
Yeah, the chemical plant zone where in Sonic 2 where you just the whole level is just you going through pipes. But that's what I love about it, man. I thought the game was so ingeniously designed. Those earlier Sonic games, just because of how fluid it was, you know, it was so fluid and so fast, and maybe that takes away from the experience for some people because it goes by so fast you can't even tell what's going on.
Well, no, some of that, you know, that happens sometimes, but then there's like the levels in Sonic 2 where it's just like, oh well, now you got to go slow, like the underground stuff where you're
the Mystic Cave.
You're looking for like
Mystic Cave.
It's just, you know, you're going fast. Okay, now I got to push this block. Got to find the lever to pull.
You're going fast, and you hit a little brick or something, and you stop. And you just stop dead in your tracks. Yeah, that sucks. There are levels like the ones I mentioned in Chemical Plant where they're kind of seamless, and it's amazing how well it works. But then there's levels like that, like Mystic Cave and maybe Oil Ocean. There's a couple other ones that are kind of a slog to play through. I get what you're saying there, but man, I mean, I got to defend. Those are the first 3 Sonic games are on the
they're
most,
okay. They're okay.
Amazing.
Definitely.
Let me bring up a game since.
Hold on, I want to hear Justin's for me. What do you got, Justin? What do you?
Away.
All right, we'll go to that first. What do you got for Nate?
You see, he's listed just about everything he didn't like earlier. I found it actually more of a task to find something he might like. I struggled because I think I mentioned this earlier. It was in my. I've got a list of meh games where I kind of understand why people like them, but I just can't get on board. So I put Street Fighter in there. You know that. I know Street Fighter's a classic. I know that. I just don't like fighting games.
You'd upset Mark if Mark was here.
Oh, I'd upset him on all sorts.
Yeah.
I was going to say that'd probably be a Mark thing. I'm not a big fighting game fan.
I'll
be with you, man. Fuck Street Fighter.
Oh no, I'll do it. I'll make Nate mad. Elder Scrolls Online is a glorified mobile game. It is not good.
Oh, we got the fighting words now. I can't comment on Elder Scrolls Online because I have not played it.
I honestly, it's okay. I'm just teasing Nate at this point.
It's an MMO though, so I wouldn't give it the time of day. So whatever.
No, I've in the meh games. I'm not a fan of Gran Turismo.
Okay.
That's another one that's like I know everything it did. I'll tell you, here's another one. Pokemon.
I can agree with you there. I've never cared
I
for Pokemon.
I like the first 2 generations, but then beyond that, it just gets it's just too much, I guess. So it's just like, I lost it. I lost interest after the 2nd generation.
Yeah, I understand why people like them because of the RPG type stuff, but it just never appealed to me. My experience with Pokemon is with Smash Brothers. That's about it. That's about where my experience ends, is with the Pokemon characters that are in the Smash Brothers games.
I'll totally defend the Pokemon games because, like, I know I'm a man child, but I've always loved the Pokemon just because, like, I don't know, it's like a thing about having pets. Like, you remember the stupid little things we had in middle school? It was like Tamagotchis or something. I feel like
Tamagotchis and Nano Pets. And
it's like an advanced version of that. You get a pet, it learns things, you fight other things, and you try to find legendary things. And I don't know, like it was just a system that worked. And even though it was like, I will say one thing about the Pokemon games is that other than just introducing new Pokemon, the series has definitely not evolved very much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty much the same basic core, except for the odd, weird games that they make. Like, they just slap Pokemon's name on something like Pokemon Pikachu's Pinball, or some stupid. But the core games have all had the same formula, literally the same. Like, you wake up in your room, and anyway. I'm talking too much as the producer, but I will defend Pokemon just in saying that, like, I was always drawn to it because I always liked the kind of owning the pet thing and taking care of them.
And the RPG elements. You're an RPG guy.
Exactly. I've been saying for a long time that there's a new Pokemon game coming out that is supposed to be what I've always wanted, and now I'm really mad that I don't have a Switch. But yeah, it's supposed to be like the open worlds kind of Breath of the Wild.
Oh, the one that looks like
Shield.
The one that looks like a Nintendo 64 game.
Yeah. There's a lot.
There's so many memes about that.
There's a lot of speculation on that, and this is like way off topic, but there's some speculation on that it was like originally supposed to be a 3DS game, and like executives were like, "No, we need to put this out on Switch," and so they just ported it over. And
that would make sense. The 3DS is on its way out anyway, so yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
I wouldn't doubt it. But somebody had to stick up for Pokemon. So.
No, it's good, man. I'm glad you did because I don't think any of us are really big Pokemon guys. All right, let me save my game now. This is a game This is a game I've had many Twitter arguments with people over, and that's Yoshi's Island on Super NES. I just don't care for it, and never have. And for some reason, people put it up on this pedestal as a lot of people say it's the best Super Nintendo game there is. And I think a little crying, screaming Mario riding on Yoshi is just the most annoying thing ever. And, you know, I respect that they used, didn't they use the FX chip too or something to do cool visuals? That's cool. I like that. But I don't think the gameplay is that great. And I don't know. They slapped Super Mario World 2 on it for the US release, and it's not a sequel to Super Mario World. It's nothing like it. I think that irritated me more than anything. But
you've nailed it. And I think, I know we're trying to cause controversy amongst ourselves, but hopefully we get some people who are listening and mighty pissed off at what we're saying. I totally agree with you. I will, hang on a minute. I'm going to go as far as saying it is one of, no, hang on. It's definitely one of my least favorite of the entire Mario platform franchise, from original all the way through. I'm toying with the worst. I'm genuinely, I did not like it, and the fact that Super Mario World, I thought
is a masterpiece.
Masterpiece. No, it's bloody close. I thought was just unbelievable. This being touted as Super Mario World 2, get the hell out. That's ridiculous.
That was a marketing thing, and I didn't know that till years later. You know,
I love Super Mario World 2. I love Yoshi's Island. I typically just call it Yoshi's Island. I really like the egg throwing mechanics. I like I love the art. I like
the art a lot. The art is really good.
I can really understand where it's not somebody's cup of tea, though, because it isn't. It should not have been marketed as Super Mario World 2, because it is a vastly different game from like other Mario type platforming experiences. There's a lot of similarities there, but I can totally see where people would be turned off by it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I grew up with it. I played it a lot. I've gotten to the point where I've tried to get perfect scores on every levels. It's kind of an SNES version of a collectathon that you see later in a lot in the Nintendo 64 and the 5th generation, with like the Spyros and the Banjo-Kazooies and stuff, because you've got to find all the flowers and all the red coins, and you have to finish the level with all of the stars intact. So it kind of has that little collectathon element to it as well. So I can definitely see where you guys are not huge fans of the game. I personally love it, but
I think coming off of Super Mario World, which is still one of my favorite games of all time, it's like I can just pop in Super Mario World and just blaze through it, you know.
It's amazing that they never put out another core, just regular Super Mario game on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, especially it was a launch title, and they had they had all those years where they could have released another one, and
it was Donkey Kong Country, or Yoshi's Island.
Yeah.
It was just that.
I think they realized it, and they thought, "Oh shit, we didn't do a sequel."
There was no second Zelda game as well. It was just it's
crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my main one. That's probably the one that's the top of my list for games that I just don't get why so many people love it so much. But the things you said made sense, Tony, you know. And funny, another one that I feel the same way about is Super Mario Odyssey, the most recent Mario game. I'm a huge fan of the... why are you shaking your head like...
No, that is a fantastic video game.
I'll see now. Okay, all right.
What on earth have you been smoking?
All right, let me explain why. I didn't finish it, which it's the first Mario game I haven't finished. Literally the first core Mario game I had never finished. I got bored of it and I put it down. And I think part of the reason was, you know, that big open area that you go to where there's a town in the middle, and you kind of go out and you look for things to do, and it just seems like a big desert, and there's just not a lot going on. I don't know. It felt like a step back from the Galaxy games for me. I just really enjoyed the Galaxy games and their kind of weird gameplay, you know, with the spherical worlds. But I don't know. It may have been I just didn't give it a fair enough shake. I should have powered through and just kept on going. But I don't know. I played it for maybe 5-6 hours, and I was like, I can't. I'm done, you know. So I don't know.
I had a lot of fun with it. I don't know that I'll ever go back and play it all the way through again, but I really enjoyed it. But I'm not a 3D version of the Mario. I'm not a huge fan of the 3D Mario games anyway. So like Sunshine, I'm not a big fan of, and I have tried multiple times to play Mario Galaxy, and I just can't get into it. So I mean, I'm not the kind of guy to say, oh yeah, Super Mario Odyssey is great. I mean, it's the only 3D Mario game that I've played through all the way other than Mario 64. And I enjoyed it.
So the opposite of me.
Yeah.
Well, I disliked it so much, I went and traded it back to GameStop. So, and I don't think I've ever done that with a Mario game, at least not so soon after I bought it. You know, I don't know. It also didn't play well in portable mode. That could have been part of my problem.
That's all I played it in was portable mode.
I didn't think it played well because they wanted you to they wanted you to shake the switch and do.
Oh no, like, there was alternate buttons for that, and it worked fine.
Well, whatever. Not a fan of Super Mario Odyssey. I'm also not a fan of the Grand Theft Auto series.
No, I'm not either.
Granted, I haven't played one since I played 3. I played Vice City, and I played not since San Andreas. That was the last one I played. After that, I was like, I just was never that into them. The subject matter always kind of bothered me. And
yeah, same here. Yeah, it was weird. I tried to play 4 as well, and it's just too much. I don't know. I get uncomfortable with like doing that kind of stuff, and it's just being shown so visually. Like if it was a fantasy game or something, I think I would have less of a problem with that, or even like a sci-fi game. But like whenever it's like rooted like in a facsimile of the real world, it's a little too strange for me to like go around and like run people over. And I don't know. I 100% agree. I'm not a fan of the Grand Theft Auto games at all.
You guys are a bunch of prudes. I will say, like with when it comes, you can see I was the opposite. When I played those games, I didn't even play the story. My goal was to see how many stars I could get. Like are they going to send the army after me? Are they going to I will murder 37 innocent people in the street to see if they will send the army after me. You know what I mean? Like,
nice.
I turned out fine. I'm a totally good.
I'm not saying that that's a whole nother topic, man, especially with the recent stuff going on in the world. You know, politicians going back to blaming video games for the shootings. But I don't think Grand Theft Auto or any violent game is the reason for that. Just like Ozzy Osbourne's music wasn't the reason people were killing themselves in the 80s, you know, dumb goth kids or whatever. But it's like, I don't know. Yeah, the subject matter just isn't my thing. The whole realistic urban environment type thing, just I don't know. Games, I want game like Tony said. I want games in a fantasy setting or a sci-fi setting, or that's just more my taste. I think Grand Theft Auto is more of a taste thing than anything. You know, I think.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So I mean, anything else, guys?
Oh yeah, I've got 2.
Go for it.
I've got to get them out of my system. One. So. Crash Bandicoot.
I've never actually played.
Never played it.
Yeah.
Right. Take my advice. Don't bother. Shit. There you go. Anyone listening who likes Crash Bandicoot, you're wrong. So I'm gonna throw in I've got to throw in a retro one. So I just have never ever understood this ever, and I fear the answer is me. It's held up as one of the all-time arcade classics, and I think it's absolutely dire. It's Double Dragon.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Shit. Absolute shit.
Which version?
Wow. Okay.
Tony is a huge fan of the NES version.
Just the NES. Just the NES version of the first Double Dragon. That is the one I love.
Okay.
Arcade one, I totally agree with you because it's slow. It doesn't play well.
I'm going arcade.
Not good. Yeah.
Arcade is my second home. The 80s arcade, my second home. Everyone, Double Dragon. Like,
no, it's not good. No, it's not good.
I hate it. I think it's really bad. And I just, again, I was like, when you're the one guy standing there, well, I say guy, I was a bit of a kid, and everyone else is crowding around and talking about. I'm like, oh, this has got to be me. I wouldn't know what to play it. Just wouldn't play it.
I agree with you. The arcade, but see, the thing is, I didn't play the arcade version until I was an adult. Because I did a video, a YouTube video comparing the NES version, which is the one I knew growing up. I didn't even really play that much growing up. It wasn't until I did this video that I really fell in love with the game on the NES. And I compared it to the arcade version. And my big problem with the arcade version was there was a whole lot of slowdown. It was on top of the slowdown, it was just kind of boring. Like the fighting was not very intuitive. It was clunky. Whereas on the NES version, like you had a point system where you got so many points and you'd level up, you'd get a new attack and stuff. And it was smooth and it plays well. People always knock on it because it wasn't 2-player co-op, but
that always bothered me that it wasn't.
It would have bothered me if I would have had somebody there and I'm like, hey, let's play Double Dragon. But I don't really play games with people at home whenever I play retro games. So it doesn't really bother
when
me.
I was a kid, I never owned Double Dragon, the NES version, but my friend down the street did. And we'd always have to just take turns playing because there was no simultaneous 2-player mode. And so, I took that personally. But then when Double Dragon 2 came out, that fixed the problem. So
it added new problems. Because with Double Dragon 2, they decided to put in platforming elements, which was the more platforming elements.
Great.
There were some platforming elements in the first one, but they were manageable. And the second one is like, hey, let's put disappearing blocks in. It's like,
you're right, man.
Freaking beat 'em up.
Let's put some MegaMan disappearing blocks in our Double Dragon game.
Yeah, but like without the good super tight MegaMan platforming. But no, my point was then I actually found an arcade cabinet of Double Dragon. And I was thinking, oh, surely it was my emulation setup. That's why I didn't like it. No, same damn game, same problems. It has a ton of slowdown. It's not very good. I agree with you, Justin. I completely agree with you. It's not a good game.
Let's all disagree, man. Come on, we're supposed to be ripping each other's heads off here.
Does anybody like Kingdom Hearts?
No.
You see, that is on my. Everyone has their big list, right? Their big list of games that they haven't played that they need to play at some point before they die.
Yeah.
I've never played a Kingdom Hearts game.
I have played through most of the first one. I don't care for the gameplay. It's
I have no desire.
Repetitive. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, no
But
desire whatsoever.
I don't really have a whole lot to go off of on that because I've only really played the first one. But I should have been a big mark for it because I like Disney and I like Final Fantasy. But it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, I guess. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah,
Didn't really like the gameplay. I don't like Sora. I don't like the animification that goes into it with like Sora and his friends, like the main character and his friends, or it's just like I don't know, whatever. no super strong feelings on it though. So
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Well, I think we're about to reach the end here. You have any final thoughts or final jabs before we close up shop tonight? Don't all speak at once.
Oh, Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Mortal Kombat is garbage.
Especially the Genesis version, right, Tony?
No, it doesn't even matter. The Super Nintendo Genesis version doesn't matter. Mortal Kombat 2, any of those original ones, the entire premise was shock value.
That's true.
The gameplay is clunky. It's not good. You put it up against like a Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 is very fluid, very smooth, very very good in terms of like just gameplay. And Mortal Kombat is not. It's like, let's use these digitized sprites that at the time looked really super realistic, but now it just looks like you're playing with like paper dolls on a background and they're making them rip each other's heads off. And that's what's cool about it. And it's like, no.
Tony, do you remember last year at MoGameCon when the guy showed up, the Mortal Kombat guy?
Yeah.
The guy who did, who was he?
He did Johnny Cage and the ninjas, like Sub-Zero and...
Yeah, right. He showed up at the con and he was doing picture opportunities and signing autographs, but it was, how much was it? It was like, it's expensive, man.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It was just funny.
I saw him at Retro World in Connecticut the year prior as well, and it was just like, okay. Like he does the whole circuit. Somebody's gonna hear that, and they're gonna.
Yeah, I know.
Like eventually, it'll get back to him. So next time I go to a con, hey, you're that small time podcaster that like has like four listeners, and you're making fun of me. And he's gonna kick my ass because he really does know martial arts.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and
we shouldn't knock him.
the good news here is that I know that when Soren hears this back, he will be absolutely fuming.
About Mortal Kombat?
Oh,
Dude, Mortal Kombat is it's garbage, just straight garbage.
I'm with you. I don't like fighting games, but I appreciate things like Street Fighter series. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Combat, I've always thought exactly the same. Gratuitous, unnecessary, shock value. You know, in that era, let's put some blood in it and something outrageous. Wow.
Yeah,
I think it's crap.
Yeah, that's all there in place of good gameplay. Like it's like they use that to sell it rather than the actual good gameplay. Hey, let's put these super moves in the game that like are more complex than the Contra code to pull them off. Like, why is that cool? That's stupid. It's stupid.
You're right, though. It's like I'll go back to Street Fighter 2 even today, but Mortal Kombat, the original, or even 2, I don't ever go back to really because you're right. The gameplay just isn't as good. It's not as fluid. It's a bit jankier. It's more shallow. The gameplay is much more shallow, I think.
Yeah, and you take a look at Mortal Kombat and what Mortal Kombat did then with like the shock value and everything, but you compare it to like anything else that's released since then that uses Grand Theft Auto is a great example. Like I may not like the Grand Theft Auto games, but that's due to taste. That's not because the gameplay is bad. The gameplay in the Grand Theft Auto games are pretty solid games, and they have all that shock value too. So they're not just betting on the shock value to sell their game. They actually have a good game in there as well. Mortal Kombat, in my opinion, they just had the shock value, and the game behind it was just very shallow, as you were saying. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's mine. That's gonna piss people off. I know a couple people in particular that will piss off, and I'm okay with that.
All right. Well, I think we can end on Mortal Kombat and how much it sucks. That's fine. So, all right, fellas. Thanks as always, and on behalf of Justin Day, Tony Brazel, our producer Nate Rowe, I'm Zach Smith, and we will see you next time. Later.
Take it easy.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. It's going to be tricky on the timing, especially if we want to get Soren on too, because the UK time and Hawaii time. What is that? Like a 10-hour difference?
Hang on a minute. Fuck him. I've had to put up with this. He can come on at 4 a.m. for all I care. Like, you boys and me, we're going to be cool. That's all right.
Yeah.
Can you sense the brotherly love?
Yeah.
Fuck that bastard.
Yeah.
Fucking man.
I've had to put up with this dickhead for 34 years. You've had 6 episodes. That's not quite the same.
That's true. Yep. 6 episodes and 1 weekend for me.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
100 meg. Ridiculous. So I was genuinely on a call the other day, on a Zoom call for work, and my mate was round. We were using the same internet. He started uploading a file, and I had to shout through to him and ask him to stop. Now, right? What I want you to bear in mind is it's 2019. This is the equivalent of when I was 14. And my mum would ask, yes, it's exactly.
Trying to pick up the phone while somebody's on the internet.
Yeah.
Mom, get off the phone!
Yeah. See, nothing's changed. It certainly hasn't where I live. So.
To be very honest, man, I'm kind of glad I didn't. I'm just producing tonight because I honestly hadn't. I didn't know what the Google Stadia was. Like that's how out of the times I am. I had no idea what it was or what it even did.
All right, everyone ready?
I guess. Indeed.
All right, you guess.
There's your cat again, by the way. I love your cat.
Yeah, she always hangs out.
She's proper background. I like it.
Proper background, yes. Proper background, right, Mooks? Right, Mooks? That's right. She always bothers me. She'll start. I have to mute the mic continually because she comes around and just starts meowing. Now she's stuck. Okay.
Super manly, bro. That's going on the next highlight reel.
On the highlight reel, yeah. Me and my kitty cat. It's better than Derek's cat bumping and knocking over his mic and shit. Oh look, now Brian and Tony's got his.
There we go. It's a cat party.
Where's your cat, Justin? Where's your cat?
They're genuinely back home. I've got two, but they're certainly not in London.
Okay.
57 and 40 seconds.
Yeah, you can blame me.
No, you're good, man.
No. Every time I'm on, I love talking. Every time I'm on, there's talking. I think we had a PB last time I was on. It was like an hour and 47. and what's worse is I'm the one complaining that I'm up late.